Hey, it's Bevan Eyles with the latest episode of Fitness Thoughts. Today I'm going to be talking about mums. But before I get into the main gist of today's talk, I want to share something that puts me in a bit of a bad light, because when I was a young man, I used to think that mums were kind of lazy. Now, when I say young, I was probably about 15, 16, 17 at this age. And I ultimately felt that most mothers just kind of, particularly mums of young kids, just sit in front of TV watching Oprah all day. Now, I know I was wrong, and the reason I figured that out pretty early on in my life was that I had a kid when I was 19, and once I had my own child, I suddenly realised how much hard work being a parent was, but in particular, how much hard work being a mother is. For those watching this right now, maybe you are a mother and you've had those young children, or you know somebody who's had a young child, you understand that being a mother is a full-time job. When we look at young children in particular, they take up a lot of energy and time from their parents, and mothers in particular. And the reason is that young children are 100% dependent on their parents. They need somebody to feed them, they need somebody to care for them, they need someone to clothe them. They need the love and caring of somebody who's there to help them through that first stage of their lives. And if we look at the practical side of this for the mother, we can see that this is kind of a full-time job. That 24/7, you're going to be switched on to the needs of that child of yours that is 100% dependent on you through this next moment of their life. And we can look at this practically and we can kind of understand the job of it. And in some ways it's a very rewarding time, because we want to be there for our child, to be able to support and love them and nurture them to become a great person. But one of the things that doesn't get understood for a lot of people is the loss of self that a mother goes through in the early ages of her child. It's a massive loss of self that is one of the hardest things for a mother to have to face in today's world. During the first period of a child's life, the mother's life has to take a back seat to that child's life. Now, obviously, it's a rewarding time for the mother, and she gets a lot from this, and she understands the importance of this time in her child's development. But at the same time, she's had to sacrifice a lot about what made her in her own life. And its loss of self is often one of the biggest struggles for mothers in this time. Like, if you think about a mother before she has the child, she's often got a career, she'll have hobbies, interests, an exercise regime, maybe time with friends, and a lot of those activities suddenly get shifted away. Can you imagine, if you're not a mother, can you imagine what that's like? If tomorrow you had to stop your career, you had to change your hobbies, you had to have less time for exercise. Can you imagine how that would affect you in your life? Well, ultimately, that's what a mother has to go through in that first stage of bringing a child into the world. That they have to give up so much of what made them feel themselves in this life. I suppose, why am I talking about this today? Well, I suppose my first point is, for a mother, in the first period of a child's life, when there's that transition from my old life to my new life, there can be a massive loss of identity and a massive loss of self. And for that reason, for those people around the mothers in the world, we need to become really good at supporting our mothers to be able to help them keep some sense of self and identity through this time. We have to acknowledge that for these mothers, they're not going to have the same amount of time to do the things they were beforehand. They're not going to be able to do the same exercise regime. They may not have the same time for hobbies and friends, or even career academic work. But what we can do is we want to offer the support to allow them to keep a little bit of that in their life. It's really important. And why is that? Because if they can maintain enough, even if it's just a little bit of their own exercise, or a little bit of time with friends outside a child, or a little bit of time for a hobby where they're not worried about the child, then we can allow them to stay in a place that's healthier for them in the long term. And ultimately, I believe that if the mother can stay in a healthier place, they're going to have better energy for when they have time with their child. But what's our role within this? Well, I suppose there's 2 points I want to make today. For the mothers out there right now, is how do I allow my will to have that time for myself? My first step would be, I need to be a great communicator of when I need support. It's really interesting. I've got this running group called Get Up to 5, and we often get a lot of mothers who come into the group, and it's a big thing for them because they haven't exercised for a long time. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback we get is that doing the Get Up to 5 program is the first time these mothers have put themselves first. And they discover a few really fascinating things in this. They discover that because they've prioritised exercise, their family will shift for them to help them be successful in doing this. So that once they ask for the support of those around them, the people around them are actually willing to support in a way that allows them to have the time. But B, that when they keep the exercise in, that sense of self becomes really important to them. And that sense of I'm looking after myself is really, really important. And what about those who support mothers? Well, I think we've got a really important role to play in the mothers' lives. First of all, it's the other parent. And the other parent can be, in today's world, it can be split relationships, it can be in a relationship. There's many varieties of what a family is in today's world. But we need to really be considerate of the needs of the mother and their demands. And often when we get into kind of early stage of a child, is that everyone gets a little bit stressed because we just don't understand how hard it's going to be in that early stage. And sometimes we can get a bit selfish in that way because we all are in that place where it's hard for me as well. But really, if you are the person who's the other parent, it is hard for all of you, but really what we want to do is get on the same page and work together with great communication and great planning that allows both of you to have that time to put your own health, mentally and physically, into the equation of how to make this new life work. For those outside of the immediate family, other family or friends, look for opportunities to give those people a break. If you have a friend who you know has had a child, you can go around and do a bit of babysitting on a weekend so they can go for a walk or they can do a hobby. It's really going to make a big difference for this person. So look for opportunities to be the person in that person's life that gives them a break. It'll be cool for you as well because you actually get to connect with the kid and start to build a relationship that will be a long-term relationship for you in your life. If I was going to say there's some really important steps to think about when we think about how to keep healthy in the early stages for mothers, I think first of all communication is really important. You need to become great at communicating with your immediate family and your outside world on how they can support you and not being afraid to ask for help. And that's probably my second point. Don't be afraid to ask. People want to support you. People want to be there to support you when you ask. And so don't be afraid to ask for that support and then really show the appreciation back when you get that. Then plan those moments where you can make it work. We know that for a mother to be there for a child is really important most of the time. But to be able to get half an hour out in a day when you know where your child's going to go to sleep and you can have someone else to have your child at that time, that's going to be really important. So communication, not being afraid to ask for help, planning, and then finding ways to be successful and lowering expectations. If you've done 10 hours exercise a week before you had a child, it's probably not likely that's going to happen. But what's something you can do during that stage? For those who aren't the mother, look for opportunities. Communicate in a different way. Communicate in offering help. Hey, how can I help you out? Do you need a bit of a break? Can I come around and babysit sometimes? Look for ways to let them know that you want to be available for them. And then when you are, do it in the great way possible. Get them out of the house, get them to do what they want to do. Other ways you can be there is actually be the person who goes along and helps them to do the thing they would normally do. So for example, their partner might be able to look after the child and they want to get out and do exercise, but they may be lacking some motivation. So you could be the person who goes out and goes for a walk with them that gets them out the door and keeps that thing in their life. Ultimately, when we have children, it can be a very stressful time in our lives. And while we're going to have to deal with that stress, we want to do it in the most healthy way possible. And for a mother, that is a massive job because you've got the job of raising the child and the loss of self. But if we can maintain these little things that help keep a sense of self, help us de-stress, we're going to be better parents, we're going to have better relationships, and we're building a better pathway for our child moving forward. So if you're a mother watching this today, have a think about this. Or if you're pregnant, you're going to have a kid soon. Or if you're a father, or if you're a family member, how can we support our mums? Because ultimately, if we do, we're going to create better families moving forward. Right, team, that's the latest episode of Fitness Thoughts with Bevan James Eyles. What am I going to tell you about? You can check out all my work at bevanjameseyles.com. If you want to become a patron of my work, you can go to Bevan James Eyles and you see there's a patronage page there, and it's just a way that you can financially support me in what I am doing. One thing I'm going to be doing over the next few months is I'm actually going to be releasing an online course around exercise, and I'm really excited about this. It's not going to be for probably another 3 or 4 months because I'm kind of doing all the work in the background right now. But check it out in a few months from now, and hopefully I'll have a way that you can get into exercise yourself. Anyway, you have a great month. If you want to check out an email, you can email me at bevanjames@gmail.com. And lastly, my fitness behavior podcast happens every second week around this as well. So, you guys rock on. And to all the mothers out there, keep being great. See you. Bye.